We're going to go now to Q&A. So we're going to leave the four of us up because we're the ones who've been here in person. And the first question is coming from Tuvi Orbach. And if you can just make clear who your question is to, then please just go ahead.
Thank you very much. It was wonderful to see so wonderful people together. All of them I met separately, but wonderful to see you all together. And I appreciate everything that you're saying. But I've got one question. I think that everybody in this audience and all the people who bought the ticket and many others, members of the SMN, etc., are very much identified with you. So you try to convince something that we all agree in different way, and all of us share the same vision. My question to you, how we can change? We are a few thousand people or some thousand who believe in this already and want this also. How we now can convert all the other billion people in the universe who still too much with the ego, too much with fighting. You can see all the fighting in other countries without mention. You can see all the problem. We can see that half of the Americans still vote for Trump, which not exactly agree with this value. And the same against in Russia and other things. So most of the humanity are far from this vision. How we can help to convert all the other humanity to go together to this vision? This is my simple question. Thank you.
So I'd like to
volunteer to answer this. Thank you.
Yeah. Just to say one word about it. We don't need to convince all people on the planet separately or jointly. We need to create a core, a critical mass. This idea is timely and it will spread. You have to be that change, as Gandhi said, and never doubt the power of a small group of people to change the world, as Margaret Mead has said. We have to be ourselves coming together with the like-minded people, with people who understand the new reality, the real reality, the old reality, but not the artificial reality. If we can begin to believe that, to live that, that is the way forward. Then other people will join. We don't need to go to each group separately to convince them. We don't convince anybody. We become ourselves and allow others to participate in our being. I firmly believe in that. One book can change the world. One sentence can change the book. One can change the world. One afternoon or evening can change you, and through you can change the world. There is no other way, but this way works. This is a unified quantum universe. Everything that happens in it is non-local. Let's use our non-locality to change ourselves, because that will change others.
Yeah, and Jude has her hand up. I'm watching all the hands, so Jude, go ahead.
Thank you. It's great to see you, Tuvi. What I would like to remind us of and reheart us of is we're talking about the evolutionary impulse of the entire universe flowing through us. This isn't something that somehow is just down to us. As Ervin said right at the beginning, as a sort of a choice. This is something I would suggest that is much, much bigger. And also that we have an enormous support to make these different choices. You know, I'm writing the story of Gaia, the sort of the evolutionary journey of our entire universe. I began in awe and wonder. I ended absolutely speechless, because the intelligence, the intention, the cosmic genius, the profound spiritually based wonder of this journey is truly extraordinary. It is flowing through us. You know, there's a quote from Shakespeare, you know, about the turning of the tide. We're on a turning of the tide. It seems to me if we show up, as Ervin is suggesting we do, if we show up, serve, get out of the way, attune and align with this evolutionary impulse, it will flow us, it will breathe us, it will invite us and call us. And it's not an arithmetic process. It is a vibrational, it's a frequency, it is a level of awareness process. And you know this as well as anybody.
I know very well. Just to share with you my view.
I appreciate that. But I think this is really key, because if we're saying that, you know, everyone, 8 billion people have to come to this perspective before the upshift can happen. We're not saying that at all.
Yes.
And that's not the story of evolution. And that's not the story of consciousness. So my sense is, let's go back to the fundamentals of a universe of which we are microcosms and microcosmic
Yes.
co-creators, to align with and serve this incredible impulse to evolve.
And Kingsley has his hand up. So go ahead,
Yeah.
Kingsley.
Thank you. Just to say a few words on that, because I think Jude said it well. I think it's an important question, Tuvi, because it's a question many people will be asking, because they look at the world around them and they see maybe the news, and they've seen this, what's going on and the chaos and that. And so it's a natural question. But I would say that it's not our question. It doesn't belong to our energy. That's the question that belongs to that world. Because once you start questioning yourself, you aligned with that energy that creates the question. So it's like, how can we really make it? Because we know there's so much, the elites are in power, there's centralized control. How can we go against centralized control? How can we fight that? All that thinking is in exactly the same frequency of what's going in the world right now. And what we don't need to do is add to that frequency. What we need to do is detach from it. So, as Jude has said, there's so much going on in the universe that we just don't know what's going on, but we know it's there. We know it's working through us, because that's how we've got through evolution so far. But it's a shift of position, and that shift of position means that we've detached from the very problem, and we've got to make sure that we're not in the energy of that problem. And yes, we don't know how it's going to happen. I don't think anyone can predict how we're going to overturn it. We don't have the mind of the cosmos knowingly. It's flowing through us, but we don't knowingly have it. But I think we all understand, we can feel it, and many other people are feeling it. So when they wake up, they want to see, what do we align with? And as Rumi said, there's a field, I'll go and meet you there. We go and meet them, but we don't go all the way over there. We meet them to bring them in. Just a few words. Thanks.
Yeah, Kingsley, thanks. So over to David Lorimer.
I want to add that there's a person joining us, I see on the screen. It's called David Lorimer.
Yes, very.
Yeah, David, and then we'll go to the people.
It's a very quick point, which is relevant. I think.
David feels the upshift because he feels the world. He is an incredible poet. Every evening before going to sleep, my wife reads to me a poem from David. We have the whole little book of his. He understands intuitively and deeply. And he is an incredible organizer and help and a scientist and getting this together. I would like to thank David for being the organizer of this meeting and the co-author of the book, and for being with us. Thank you. Would you like to say a few words to add?
Yes, thank you.
For the rest of the days.
Yeah, thank you, Ervin. It's just a small point relevant to this, and this is the whole business of how new cultures come into being. Mm-hmm. They come into being through what Arnold Toynbee called the creative minority. And the creative minority is only, in his estimation, 5% of the total cultural population. And so we're not talking about very many people here. The Renaissance came into being with a very small number of people. And so I think we should just bear this in mind. Look, obviously, Paul Ray has extended this idea with cultural creators. But I'll just stay with Toynbee and think of this notion of the creative minority, which is the advance guard, if you like. So I think that's what we represent.
I just want to add to that one little footnote. At a time of crisis, the creative minority does not need to be large. It can be a tiny creative minority because the system is unstable. If everything is hunky-dory, everything works fine, then people are complacent. It's very difficult to change, but that's not the case. Today, it's easier to change because more and more people recognize that we must change. And so the creative minority is dependent on the level of crisis. And the crisis level is high today, so the creative minority can be small. But it has to be dedicated, has to be vocal, has to be articulate, and has to feel that its message will then spread.
All right, so up is Ariel, actually. We're going now to the people in the larger audience. So, Ariel?
My question is, I really think that we are in great peril today because our systems have rewarded the most aggressive, the most terrible people with leadership positions. And how do we bring our consciousness? To me, it's a timing thing. I mean, like we're seeing 20,000 people killed in Palestine because we've got some really bad leadership. And how can good people get more involved in, people with this kind of consciousness, more involved in impacting the what's happening in the world?
So who among us would like to field that one?
Just one word. Politics is the last thing that will change. Society has to come from the periphery, from the awakening people. If there is enough of these people around, then politicians will go with it because they need popularity. They need popular support. But the work to be done is from the periphery. The center never changes. Even in biology, I think Bruce can confirm that, and Jude can confirm, and Kingsley as well. The center never changes, or it has attrition. It dies away, but it doesn't really change. What changes is the constant change on the periphery, constant novelty coming in. When the system is unstable, then the periphery moves to the center. It overtakes it. And that's the story of evolution, of population biology altogether. So I'm not worried about how to, as long as we create a creative minority that can have, that is vocal, that can attract people, some people will rise to it, and eventually politics will change, but eventually. But we must change our culture first, our societies first. And then I think politics will respond. But this is just my private opinion.
Yeah, and sometimes a visionary does step up from within the mainstream. We've seen that throughout history as well. So any other comments among the six who are on screen? Kingsley.
Well, I'd also like to say we're seeing great atrocity now, but we shouldn't take that as a sign that these centralized control powers are winning. That's what they'd like to show us. What I see it as is deep crisis, and there's deep worry, there's deep crisis. What they're doing is a sign of desperation. Now, they are atrocities, but they are signs of desperation because there's a different energy coming into the world. People are being more aware. There are people protesting. There's huge shifts going on. But you see, all the media wants you to focus on the atrocity. But the atrocity is a sign of the drowning person. It's their gasping last acts of atrocity before, as Ervin said, the center is the last place to implode. So don't see it as a sign of power. See it as a sign of weakness. Killing other people, atrocity, is a sign of deep human weakness, not power. So I think that's a sign of that paradigm world on its way out, but taking the last painful gasps.
Anyone else from the core group here?
No, I think we should go on because we've got
so
people
let's
with a
go
hand up and only 10 minutes to go.
Yeah, so let's go ahead to Thomas. We'll try to get to these people in the audience. Thomas Daffern.
Yeah, so hello. Thank you very much to all of you who've spoken. A fascinating discussion. I had a long intervention. There won't be time to do it. So I want to just share something I discovered in the Vatican Library. In the back room, I found a book by Abelard in which he uses intellect as a verb. It was in Latin, and intellecting is a process. It's a verb. It's an activity. That's kind of what you guys have been doing today. I run the World Intellectuals Wisdom Forum. And I just, Kingsley, you said a couple of times about artificial intellect. Please don't use that term. There is no such thing as artificial intellect. There's artificial pseudo-intelligence, which people with intellects can create. But true intellecting is a spiritual task that only we humans can do. That's our unique gift, if you want. Buddha said to reach enlightenment, you have to be a human. what he meant is you have to pass through facing the demons that confront human experience and then transcending them as he did. And Aristotle said the intellect is the immortal self within us, the immortal soul. So my question, I don't know if there's time, is what is it that you do personally, the speakers panel, to keep your intellecting alive as a verb, as a process, that you can share with us? Thank you. Because that to me is key to the upshift. Yeah.
All right. Any volunteers from the core group on that one?
Okay.
Ervin has this. Ervin, go ahead.
Very, very, very briefly, I want the core group to respond. I allow it. I listen. I allow it to surface. I try to intuit. I have a very strong feeling that when I'm writing, the next sentence is dictated. It's coming to me. Sometimes it's not, then it's often I have to throw it out. But when it works, it's not alone. It's being held, it's being produced for me. I'm not alone. I have a very strong feeling for that. And what I call me is really a conglomerate, really an aggregate, a system, as we have been saying here today.
Yeah.
That without that, we would be doomed. We wouldn't even be here if we didn't have that deep guidance, which is coming from inside us, because this is a holographic, as Jude is saying, a holographic universe. I'll call it a holotropic universe. It's because it is, and we are a part of it, then we move forward together. We can master these challenges because we are not alone to do it. So it's all I need to do, and my sense of that, is to allow to come to the surface what is in me. Allow it by writing it down, by speaking about it, by thinking about it, by dreaming about it. And then it comes. I trust that it comes. And I think it comes for everyone who really tries.
Yeah, so we have two more people, and I think actually if we just go over with just 4 minutes over, we'll just let them in and see. So Cynthia, we'll start with you, and then we'll go to C.D. Clayton, and that's everyone. So Cynthia, go ahead.
Hi, I'll be brief. Thank you, everyone, for your inspiration. I'm blasting out of my socks. Thank you so much. I just want to say, to address the concern that's come up, which I hear so often about how can we transform this place with the leadership we have, and we look and see what's going on. And I like what Dennis had to say, that we are watching the fall of Rome, the last gaffes. I really believe that, because I don't think it's everyone that will be transforming the world. And one thing to point out is that in 2011, Earth Day 2011, there was a major victory that is written about by Nikolai Levashov and Fyodor Shrudnev, and some of those who I regard as the great Russian giants of science, who are so far ahead of us in understanding so many things. One of the things they write about is that there has been a great battle underway on our planet for many millennia now. And in 2011 on Earth Day, with the help of friends from those who are considered the light hierarch, Nikolai Levashov and friends managed to wrest back control over some really significant systems and processes on the planet that have been keeping people in a dumbed down, blocked evolutionary stage. And so at a certain level, due to the freedom of these constraints, there will be an unfolding and a much greater progress towards unity and all the wonderful things that Jude spoke about, and that Pierre Teilhard de Chardin and everyone, Ervin, Dennis, all of you, David, have been speaking about, that greater complexity and that greater evolutionary state is happening whether we like it or not. But those of us who can be catalysts will be critical in deciding what it looks like and in waking up more people and allowing it to happen sooner than later and allowing us to avoid more destruction, which we do see unfolding due to the forces that have been operating. And just to wrap it up, the last gasps, what I view that as, based on what Levashov, Shrudnev, and Katibov, among others, have written about, is that what we're watching right now with the fall of Rome is these people who are empowered are like these automotor people that have been there, but the plug has been pulled, and we're watching things fall apart. We're in this transition state of great chaos, but yet we're converging towards this great unity. But meanwhile, we have these people there, and unfortunately, we have to put up with them. They will fade away eventually. I think personally, we need to focus especially on children, because the children are the ones who are going to have the capacity, the brain capacity that so many of us have been stultified from achieving. That they will have a freedom from many of these constraints that we grew up under, and they will have the ability to be truly creative and to come up with the technology that will have its place, which will allow us to still have a human-centric universe and planet, but there has to be a focus there, I think. So I just wanted to add that. And some of this is written about in the Aryan Vedas, which describe the battles. Unfortunately, most of the Russian Aryan Vedas are not translated, but you can get bits and pieces of them and translate them. Thank you, everybody, so much.
Yeah, so absolutely. So let's do this. Let's bring C.D. Clayton on real quick. We can all wrap up together. Just a note, Jude just has a children's book out. So this vibe about children is going around. Light on Light Press has just published Jude's children's book on cosmology. So CD, go ahead. And I think we can still be no more than 5 minutes over here. So go ahead.
It's a great book. I have a hard time expressing myself anymore because the language of my heart is changing. And I want to ask a question, actually, of Jude. So, and this is kind of a lot like how do you get up close and personal with Source? I can't sit in a room with beautiful souls too long and talk about God, Source, as if it's something else somewhere else. I can't do that. So we are coming up with a lot of new language and new socio-technologies that young people do need to learn them. And so to build this new embodiment and connection, the spirit coming through us, do you have like a favorite way? I'm finding for me only silence is what works. But I feel we're in a time to be receiving, listening. How do you talk to the universe, Jude, when it's just you and all that is? I'm finding I don't have words. It is so precious. And thank you all for your great truths expressed here and wisdom. You're making a difference. We're on the line and we're going over because we're holding hands.
Yeah, amen. So Jude, take a run at that, and then I'm going to throw it to David, who will explain the break that we're going to take and what's coming up next. So Jude, your turn.
Thank you, CD. You make my heart sing. When I'm in silence and just opening myself to the wonder that is our universe in all its multidimensional glory, then my heart bursts open with that joy. So for me, it's finding that time, as Ervin said, every day, not just for Sundays or high days or anything of that sort, but every day to find time that not just reminds me, but rehearts me of the oneness that we're all part of. And silence, yes, but I also do it by singing to ABBA around the kitchen table. Whatever, it seems to me, whatever. Some years ago, I did a workshop in Dublin, and the lady there said, I want to see orbs. I want to see orbs. And I never have. And it makes me quite sad that I never have. And so what I did in the workshop I found ways together where we laughed and we were joyful and we sang. And when we did that, I said, look out the window. And she looked, I said, I see orbs, I see orbs. The universe, it seems to me, shows up when we show up with love. It is a living, loving universe. So however we do that, the universe meets us and dances with us, in my experience. And I hope it does, and it will for you.